I'm not Andrew. I'm Chase.
Andrew was caught a little off guard with some extra work, and Chase was going to be our guest anyway. So, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Normally we start off with a little bit of chatter about work. I don't think your work will particularly be helpful on the tech front.
Not typically. I'm a personal banker with a regional bank in the Northeast United States, which probably narrows it down a little bit. Our tech is all likely going to be changing within the next 6 months.
Oh, that'll be exciting.
That's about it. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it because there is improvement to be had, and we've seen a bit of a preview into some of it, and it is a good change. So I am cautiously optimistic about it. We'll go with that.
Well, that's a good place to be. And I'm currently at my new job, still full on training mode because there's some super complicated software out there that I have to learn. So I'm working on that. I don't really have anything exciting to say about it either.
Training's training. I get that.
Yeah, you got to learn it first.
Yep.
So, Chase, do you have any news for us today?
I do, and this is, I'm not sure, by the time this episode comes out, this is going to be some older news, but this is something that I watched happen in real time, and I really enjoyed the ride that it took me on. So as of, I think it was Monday, it was put out, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the actual date of the news. Sunday evening, I believe it was. I'm looking here to see if there was an actual timestamp involved.
Ooh,
I'm not seeing a timestamp, but Sunday at I'm gonna go ahead and say Sunday evening, Amazon put out a new a release for a new book, specifically a Dungeons and Dragons book. Which was a major leak because this was for the first time announcing that they would be doing a crossover with the Magic the Gathering universe. Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. It is not probably terribly well known outside of that immediate community, but Magic the Gathering actually has a super deep lore that is 100% perfect for Dungeons and Dragons. And the fact that Wizards of the Coast owns both probably doesn't hurt the chances of that coming out. Honestly, I'm surprised this hasn't happened already. Makes a lot of sense for what was going on.
So is it real?
Oh, it was real. They announced it the next day, alongside something I was much more excited for, a PDF of the Eberron campaign setting, which I still need to buy. It's very, very good. Also, I should mention, I do a D&D podcast, Another Path. Probably should have led with that. But yeah, no, Another Path, theatrical tabletop D&D. We actually use some, thank you. But we do use a lot of Eberron content, particularly in the race, actually two of the races that I have used in Another Path, Shifters, which is notable because main character Mordecai is one of them, and Changelings, which is another race that are essentially more sentient doppelgangers, are both featured, are both from that campaign setting, Eberron. And the day after this leak went out, they just happened to announce that, oh, by the way, Eberron is available right now, and Ravnica will be available this fall. Both of these I'm super excited for. I didn't play a lot of Magic growing up, but I have a lot of affection for it, and Eberron was the first long-form campaign I actually took part of and got really invested in. So both of these are super fun and exciting. Eberron is available right now. As I mentioned, Ravnica will be available in November, I believe. But this is not the first time. You can do probably a pretty quick Google search and find multiple times where Amazon has leaked this, that, and the other to various effects. And usually, Amazon is we are living in a world where companies are taking a larger and larger role in our privacy and security, both private and corporate.
Preach, brother. Preach.
Some companies are pretty good about that. Google, I feel like, is pretty good about guarding your data. Amazon, not so good.
Yeah, they kind of suck at it.
Amazon's pretty bad at that. So
hopefully they improve.
I say this as a person who has the Amazon robot sitting in their living room.
So you're obviously not terribly concerned.
I don't talk about a lot of private stuff in the living room. I also don't have it hooked up to my phones, which is a thing that you can do, which I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can set it to like actually hook up to your phone and like make phone calls and import your contacts, and that's a
Nah.
like one, we're a 2-family household, so no thank you, and 2, no thank you.
So has she laughed at you, Alexa?
No, we have not gotten the creepy Alexa laugh.
Oh.
We also have changed its name from Alexa to Echo because it does significantly cut down on how often she will respond when she is not called. Happens from time to time, but not always.
That's handy dandy to be able to change her name. I didn't know you could do that.
Yep, there's you can do Alexa, you can do Echo, and you can do computer if you want to live on Star Trek.
I love Star Trek.
As do I.
I'm glad that it wasn't too big of a leak, but yeah, Amazon is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bit of news that is a little less dateable. Well, I guess you could still put a date on it. But so there's a prison in Idaho, and I guess prisons across the nations have this, but I didn't know it existed. There is something called JPay that you can put on a tablet that can help prisoners be able to like use email and do things, but still be like monitored by the prison guards and make sure that everything is kosher, whatever.
Sure. Sure.
Well, prisoners, as you know, are not necessarily the most lawful of people, and a group of 364 of them across the state of Idaho collectively stole nearly $225,000 worth of credits.
I'm sorry, what?
So there was a glitch of some kind in this software, this JPay software that pays for the emails and the whatever else that they can do. And the prisoners stole $225,000 worth of credits.
Within that system, though.
Within the system, yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's on them.
So I just thought that was really funny because obviously you've got prisoners taking, What did you expect?
Look, at some point you're dealing with the lowest bidder, and at some point a prisoner is smarter than the lowest bidder.
Which apparently happened with like 364 prison inmates. So they must have like
that's a lot.
Communicated somehow. I'm not sure, but it's just kind of funny. I really enjoyed that.
I'd be curious to see the heat map across the different prisons because Idaho is not a small state.
Right? I don't know where the prisons are located either. So maybe it's like, mostly in one and maybe like 2 or 3 out where they, I don't know, transferred or something. That would make sense. The other one I have for you. So you know who IBM's Watson is, right?
Refresh my memory.
Okay.
Because I'm aware of it, but it's been a while.
So it's a supercomputer, essentially, that IBM uses. It's an artificial learning kind of situation. And they kind of put it to use here, there, and everywhere to try to like improve whatever they might try to improve. So they used it, specifically the big thing was it won Jeopardy. So that was in the news a while back.
Right. Yes, I remember this guy now. I was momentarily confusing it with Deep Blue, but continue.
Yeah. No, so Watson won Jeopardy, and now they're putting the same algorithms to use for a myriad of things. And one of the things they were trying to do was to try to come up with something to help doctors diagnose and treat patients, specifically with cancer.
Sure.
Apparently, Watson failed terribly.
Ooh.
So
sorry, buddy.
So the computer was, fed all the data and like, this is how you do these things. And it would suggest things like a cancer patient with severe bleeding should take this drug that causes more bleeding. And one of the doctors was quoted as saying, "This product is a piece of
Well,
so
this is why we have beta.
They tried and they failed, and thankfully no patients were affected. But so don't go to a computer for your oncology anything.
People are still better at that for now.
For now, give us a few decades, maybe, hopefully.
I'd give it inside one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
These kind of things, they improve exponentially. So once they get it to realize, hey, maybe don't give the bleeding person stuff that makes you bleed more, but it's going to be smooth sailing from there, I'm sure.
I'm sure there's not a million other things to figure out.
Nah, not at all. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
So, the reason I have you on today, and Andrew was super excited to learn about this, but so it goes, was Snapchat, because neither Andrew nor I use nor really understand the concepts behind Snapchat. Why?
It's a weirdo.
So
It's weird.
what is Snapchat?
Okay, so Snapchat is a social media / messaging platform that has really gained prominence in the past, I would say 3, maybe 2 years. It has been around technically in some form or another since 2011, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, that old. And I know because I hopped on in 2012. I was a early adopter, I guess. Now I have never had, I'm going to disclaim this, in the same way that I initially disclaimed this to Kim. I never have had an abundance of friends that have used Snapchat. It has never been my main means of communicating with people, which I know in certain circles, depending on your group of friends, depending on your group of age, it absolutely can be and is a totally viable way to be talking with people. But I'm I am what you would call an old man. It is something that was introduced to me by one of my younger friends back in 2012 and was like, hey, Chase, you got to get on. It's like, yeah, all right. And it has always been installed on my phone, and I have always had between 1 and 5 people I would regularly use it with. And then after that, not so much. And it always fades in and out who uses it. But that is my disclaimer. I am coming to this as someone who is slightly better versed than probably most people my age.
There we go. That's what we needed, was someone to explain, what is it? So you're on it, but what does it do?
I am on it. What does it do? So Snapchat is a temporary image viewer. So if I were to send a message to someone, I would, the main mode of communication on there is through pictures. So I would take a picture of something. You can add text to it. You can apply filters to it, similar to Instagram. You can write on it, draw on it, add, like I said, add text, change the text on it, how you want it to look, and then you send it. But the difference between this and Snapchat and rather Instagram is that unlike Instagram, where it is eternal, or at least as eternal as the servers are, with Snapchat, you can set how long you want the image to be viewable for. Anything between 2 seconds and as long as the person wants. And as soon as that person is done viewing the image, that image goes away and it's gone. And
so
yes,
when I first heard of it some time ago, it was primarily used for somewhat illicit means of spreading pictures that you maybe don't want others to find.
Correct.
Is it changed from that now? Primarily?
I'm going to say, possibly. I have been romantically entwined since its inception, so I have not engaged in that particular aspect and facet of how Snapchat functions, but it absolutely is a way you can use it. You can definitely use it illicitly in such a manner. It is honestly just a funny way to have a conversation because of its impermanence, it does feel a little bit easier to kind of share.
Make that really dumb joke.
Exactly. For the Futurama fans out there, the last time I used Snapchat was last night. My wife and I were going grocery shopping, and we were walking up and down the aisles, and when we got to the cereal aisle, we saw that they have chocolate peanut butter flavor blasted shreds. That's what the cereal is called.
Disgusting.
I believe that. So I saw that, and I remember the stupid Futurama joke. So to Griffin, my co-host on Another Path, I took a picture of that joke of the cereal box and said, "Oh, the flavor blasted shreds, you say?" And then it was gone 5 seconds after he was done viewing it, which
but now it's immortalized in a podcast.
So here's the other thing. So the images on Snapchat are immediately deleted. You can recall them, you're just tapping through, you accidentally over tap something. You can recall them once. There's also nothing stopping you from screenshotting them. If you screenshot something, the other person does know, the sender does know that image was screenshotted. It is also worth mentioning that there are other methods of communicating on Snapchat. I went through the most basic. But there's also, you can do video chat, you can do text chat. Both of those are just as impermanent, which is fine until you try to start to make plans with somebody to meet someone somewhere, at which point you realize that you've been talking on Snapchat all day, and it's like, nards, when did we say we were going to meet there?
Thank you for saving
Which is
my
something...
editing.
You're welcome. But that is something that I have done multiple times. It's funny, a lot of my Snapchatting these days is done with the squad of Another Path. And figuring out what time we're meeting somewhere is something that Ryan and I regularly have struggles with over Snapchat, because he and I both work jobs where a single photo is about as much time as we have to send to each other. Something that Snapchat has done very, very well to make themselves kind of the powerhouse in that industry is they have done a lot with AR filters. So they can put a filter over your face to kind of age you up, age you down, put little goofy animations going on around you, turn you into a White Walker from Game of Thrones, turn you into a bear, like real-time face swapping. Like it's pretty cool what they're doing. Like
I've seen those.
It's worth the download onto your phone. And to activate those, you just hold down on this screen, like not where you take the picture, but where you actually, like where the image is. There are usually front-facing and back-facing versions of both. There's also animations that communicate with Bitmoji, which is, I don't know if it's a partner app or what their situation is, but it is, will, if both people on there have a Bitmoji, that will be your icon on Snapchat, and that will also be like an animation, like put those into animations that play, and you can have those animations play out in front of you. It is cooler than it has any reason to be, and it's pretty neat.
Okay, so that's why you would want it, is for all the really cool little animation-y type things. That's cool.
Lots of cool animations, and that is definitely something that sets it apart from its competitors. Something else, at least early on, that it did, I'm not sure if it is still doing this now, but when you sign up, and this is going to be a turnoff for a lot of people, at least when I signed up, this was a thing, you have to give your cell phone number, because it uses your cell phone number to find other people you might know, people you already do know that are in your cell phone, that you can put onto your friends list to kind of encourage you to use this as an alternate texting method. Yeah, which, like I said, I don't know if they still force you to do it, but it was at least back in, when I first joined up in 2012, it was a huge way for me. Like when I logged on, I instantly had 10 people that I could message over Snapchat, and it was really cool. It was all right there, and I didn't have to go hunting for people's usernames, which is absolutely something you have to do right now. They actually have their own version of a QR code, which you can use and like scan in to add people into your friends list, which is pretty neat.
Okay, that's handy if you meet somebody out in the wild, which requires going out and meeting people.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Not for us tech nerds.
No.
Anyway, so Snapchat bought Bitstrips, which is why Snapchat and Bitmoji are together.
That'll do it.
Amazing
That'll
when
do
a
it.
Google search will turn up.
Hey, there you go.
Have you had any advertising or companies try to reach you through Snapchat?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna do this in media res here. I'm going to open up my Snapchat app and swipe to the right. And as of July 26th, 2018, when you swipe right, you have your friends' stories up along the top. And these are kind of mass Snapchats that exist for 24 hours for you to view and review, and kind of, just kind of like updating your Facebook status, but with less of a commitment to it. If you can imagine that.
So it's for the commitment folks? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And then at the bottom, if you can just keep on scrolling, and there are tons of people and companies, let's be real here, who are spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get on my phone right now.
Okay. So has any of that been particularly interesting, or have you ever been like, ooh, that's a cool idea?
Every so often, I think I remember a couple of years ago, Vox and Vice both had every so often there would be something I would click on through there. But honestly, if I'm going there, I am going to look at my friends' information and see what is going on in their lives.
Gotcha. So from an advertiser like privacy perspective, your stuff doesn't stay around anyway. And is there any concern with other companies? Like, does it seem like they're particularly targeting you, or is it just kind of like, it's just...
I think they are probably targeting somebody about 10 years younger than me, if I had to guess, just by scrolling through here, because I have just turned 30, and there's a lot of stuff going on here about, we got Taco Bell, we got IGN, we got the Daily Mail. We got some New York Times going on, but that's like gang news. Like there's a lot of stuff that just does not particularly appeal to me.
Gotcha. So if they are trying to like read into your preferences and like try to sell you stuff, they're doing a very bad job of it.
Oh,
it's not
terrible.
Like the scary, accurate Facebook things that you scroll through Facebook and you're like, oh my gosh, I just talked about this 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, no. Snapchat is not reading my cookies.
Okay.
At the very least, not terribly well, because I do not hide the fact that I am a D&D nerd at all. Now, it's also possible that those advertisers are just not on Snapchat.
Sure.
I freely admit that I am an outlier in being a 30-year-old that has this app installed on his phone.
Fair enough.
Because let alone a married 30-year-old, like there is the fact that I use it is out of habit, and the fact that I am really entertained by the AR filters.
That makes sense.
I think they're fun and funny, so I continue to use them. But for somebody who is a little bit younger than me, like I could absolutely see it being as like, oh, this is where I go for my entertainment news. I wake up in the morning, see what people's stories were from last night, and then I scroll on through and see what DJ Khaled is up to.
I don't even know who that is.
He is some sort of beatsmith, I believe.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I feel so hip and with it.
He's got a great beard.
He has a beard?
A beard.
Oh, okay.
With a D. He's got a great one. It's like big and bushy.
I don't know that I would call that great, but okay.
It is well manicured.
There you go. Well, excellent.
That is definitely the overview. I cannot think of anything else that would be terribly important. If you are thrown off by Snapchat, it is because of its simplicity. Because it really is. It is very simple and intuitive once you use it once or twice and just kind of like get a chat flow going. Something that I didn't bring up, but is apparently a pretty big thing depending on the age demographics you fall into, is getting a Snap streak going.
Ooh.
Which is when you snap back and forth with people for multiple days at a time. You have icons next to all of your friends' faces in the Snapchat app. That will change depending on how often you actually utilize that particular thread of conversation. Whether somebody is your BFF, or the frequency that you have your streak going, or how long that streak goes. The only reason I know that anybody cares about this is because there is a fantastic episode of Still Buffering, that if you would like to know more about Snapchat and get maybe a younger person's perspective, Still Buffering is a podcast done by the Smurl sisters, who are one of which is married to Justin McElroy, so it is her and her two sisters. One of them is about my age, and one of them, I believe, just graduated high school. But this is an episode from, I want to say like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, where they actually did like talk about Instagram and Snapchat and how all that works. There's also a fantastic episode that has Lin-Manuel Miranda on there talking about youth theater. It doesn't really pertain to this conversation, but it's just a really good like half hour, 45 minutes of them talking about youth theater and this really famous Broadway actor's experience and how youth theater shaped his life. And it's just a good time, and they're all fantastic people, so give them a listen.
Oh, very good. So there you have it. If you need more information on Snapchat, go listen to that Still Buffering episode, or find a youth and ask them.
Yes, go to the youths, seek their knowledge, and maybe while you're there, they'll seek some of your knowledge, and it'll be a good experience for both of you.
I'm all about the generations coming together, man. All about it.
Yeah.
So tell us all your things,
Yeah.
Chase. All of them.
Sure, I will say all the things. Buckle up. So I am the GM and producer and editor of Another Path, a theatrical tabletop D&D podcast experience extravaganza. We come out every other Wednesday on whatever podcast servicer you prefer. We kind of trade in character development, character growth, character-driven storyline in a homebrew world of my creation.
And fantastic puns.
Yes, there's a lot of puns. There's a lot of puns on Another Path. There are slightly fewer puns on Shakespeare, a literal roundtable discussion starring myself, kind of. I'm a little less there. I kind of leave the stage mostly for my lovely wife, Cassie, as well as our co-hosts, Elizabeth and Ryan. You can find us at Shakespeare on the same day release schedule as Another Path. You can find me personally at TQ Loudly. You can find Another Path at Another Path Pod and Shakespeare at Shakespeare Pod. All of those are on Twitter.
Yay, Twitter.
Yay, Twitter.
And it Shakespeare as in the beverage. B-E-E.
As in
B-E-E-R.
correct. Those double E's trick you up online.
'Cause every time I hear you say that, I'm like, wait, take beer as in, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
got it.
Yes. So, fun fact about that show, just a funny story that I will never, almost probably never get another chance to tell again. Shakespeare was not called Shakespeare until about 30 seconds before the first episode released. Shakespeare was called Party Bard, and then as we were getting ready to launch the first episode, we realized that in between us naming the show and recording our first handful of episodes and the time that it came out, another podcast called Party Bard had come out.
Oh my gosh.
It was a quite literal, I believe the first episode had dropped. I had to pull everything back, rename everything. We had an emergency Lionface Productions, because it is produced as a subsidiary of Lionface Productions, an emergency board meeting where our vice president, I believe it was our vice president, renamed the show. And I was like, yes, this is perfect. We're moving forward, releasing. And we have been Shakespeare ever since.
Well,
but yeah, that is...
I'm glad you were able to get it together to get it out in time then.
Yeah. Tech
in time means.
That is a last second tech nightmare for y'all. Your 0-day launch can be screwed up by something as forgotten to do last second research.
Whoops. So it goes.
Oops.
At least you got it all changed out.
Yep.
So you can reach Service Desk at Service Desk Pod. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Service Desk Podcast. Gmail is servicedeskpodcast@gmail.com. And our website is also servicedeskpodcast.com. You can rate and review us. Please rate and review us on iTunes and all of those lovely places that you can do so. I'm Kim.
I'm Chase. Still not Andrew.
But we're still your techie friends.
Yes. Goodbye.